Meeting open and welcome everyone in attendance. I advise that the meeting will be digitally recorded in accordance with council policy to record the meeting to assist in the preparation of minutes and to allow for the live streaming of the council meeting. Remind of those in attendance to ensure their mobile phones are switched to silent throughout the meeting. The Circular Council acknowledges the North West Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of the country on which we stand, meet and play. We recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay respects to elders, past, present and emerging. Attendance, late apology from Councillor Poposky. There was a leave of absence, but Councillor Flowers has made it, which is good. Be upstanding for prayers, please.
Thank you. Let us take a moment to clear our minds and focus on achieving outcomes that serve the greater good of the whole community. May Lord illuminate all present and support everyone to bring their highest and best selves to the debate and the decisions made here tonight.
Thank you. Done that. 2.1, confirmation of the minutes. Could I have a mover and a second of the minutes of the ordinary meeting on 20th of February be noted and confirmed as a true record? Thanks, Councillor Dabner. Seconded, Councillor Oldacre. No debate. Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Declarations of interest. I'll declare a conflict at 6.1, which is the planning matter, as I'm part of the APCA committee. Any others? No, thank you. 4.1, Mayor's Communications, is a list of meetings and catch-ups, etc. Is there any questions on any of those? If not, could I have a mover and a second that they be noted, please? Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Seconded, Councillor Collins. Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 4.2, nothing. 4.3 is our workshops. They're noted there, the workshops we've had since the last meeting. Could I have a mover and a second that they be noted? Thanks, Councillor Hine. Seconded, Councillor Pilkington. No debate. Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. We're up to 5.0. Council encourage community participation in its meetings through providing this opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with the Council's core value, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with courtesy, fairness, dignity and respect, and we expect our residents and ratepayers to apply similar standards in dealing with the councillors. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of the council meeting and determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory language. I ask members of the public to show proper consideration and courtesy, and tonight I intend to give anybody who wishes the opportunity to ask 2 questions or more, so there's only one here, or make a statement if required. Now's the time, and also if there's any questions about any planning matters or statements about any planning matters, now is the time to put those to the meeting as well. So, you got a question or statement?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to touch on, I'm sure as councillors you're aware that there's a lot of roads around Seacole Head that are owned by Crown, but many still upkept by council, and as it turns out, Company Road's one of those roads. In recent months, we've only come aware because we saw the surveyor down there of a parcel a road reserve being subdivided off for a neighbour for their benefit, restricting us access to our farm, and on follow-up to Crown, we asked why aren't the road users consulted before something like this takes place, and they said that they consult council, but that's as far as they go when it comes to stakeholders of the road. So we'd like to put forward as a family, I'm here on behalf of the family, that council, when Crown reach out to subdivide a nature strip or something that's going to impact a substantial ratepayer down that road and potentially impacts the value of our land, that those ratepayers are consulted before something serious like this is moved forward. So I'd love to see a motion, that takes place, or that staff do that moving forward.
I imagine that would be the case, James, that we would.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, we're aware of that process taking place, but we'd have to take that on notice in terms of coming back in regards to future consultation with the public.
Okay, yeah. So it does take place that if there's a nature strip or piece of the reserve road being subdivided to a neighbouring landowner, that the ratepayers are consulted usually.
The council are consulted and would take the question on notice about the neighbouring property owners.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And further to that point, Company Road, there is, it's narrow as it is, the stretch of road, we're speaking 4 Company Road on the corner there. There was an email sent to council over 6 weeks ago now about a near miss, and they're totally waiting for a fatal crash to happen there. There's trucks and tractors and big cars that go down that road, and there's an illegal retaining wall that's been constructed there. And we'd ask council, as councillors, to get onto this, because it's waiting for an accident to happen, and I'm sure council are the ones that are liable if something like that happens. There's Stafford's just had a baby, and the kid and his partner were in the car at the time, met a big truck, and there was nowhere to go because that retaining wall's there, and there's nowhere to go on the other side for the truck. There's another big tree. So we sent the email, we tried to go through the right channels, we've heard nothing back, so we felt it was a need to bring it to council's attention tonight.
Take on notice?
Take it on notice.
Yeah, we'll take on notice and someone will get back to Carl.
No problem. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Right, moving on. 6.0. Now, I'll remind the 6.1, the planning, mention councillors that you're now sitting as a planning authority. I will move out and the Deputy Mayor can take the chair, please.
Okay, item 6.1, the construction of 2 dwellings for reserve management staff accommodation, Arthur River Road, Marrawar. And are you going to speak to this, Alan?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
So it's that council, in accordance with section 51 and section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act of 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, that Circular Head approve a permit for construction of 2 dwellings for reserve management staff accommodation at Arthur River Road, Marrawar, subject to the following conditions, and you have those in front of you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As she's just outlined, we've received an application for 2 dwellings down on Arthur River Road. We've given the assessment of this application to our planning consultant, George Walker, who's online, and he will run through the assessment with us now.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. So the application is for construction of 2 reserve accommodation units at the northern end of the Arthur Island conservation area. The entire conservation area is for specifically for staff accommodation associated with the reserve management area is a permitted use. The site of the 2 dwellings are located just to the north of Westmont Road, to the south of Marrawar Township. It's located in a north-east corner of the lot. The 2 dwellings, which are located on the site, and I'm reading off the agenda report on page 21. There's an image there on figure 4 showing the location of the two dwellings. The proposed development will be for the two dwellings, as well as a new access onto Arthur River Road and associated clearance of bushfire management. That's more expressly shown on figure 5, which is on page 23 of the agenda, in terms of the development area. Within the environmental management zone, there have been, as I said before, it retains the permitted use status within the zone, but it does invoke discretion against 3 performance criteria within the environmental management zone, which relate to the development area. So that's effectively the area of the site that will be disturbed for the proposed dwellings, including the road and vegetation clearance and wastewater management. A second discretion relates to setback of the proposed dwellings from agricultural land to the north of the site and rural land to the east of the site. And a third discretion relates to vegetation clearance as well. So with respect to the discretions relating to the development area of vegetation management, the performance criteria are focused on minimising impacts on natural values of the site. Now, this particular application has gone through several checks and balances from Parks and Wildlife's perspective, and it's gone through a site selection process with a view of trying to ensure that the accommodation is located within an area of the Conservation Management Reserve that has effectively the least amount of values. The information that's been provided within the application and that we have available to us is that the particular development area doesn't include any threatened native vegetation communities or species, and that the development area is likely to minimise impacts on natural values, and accordingly it's been found that the application satisfies the performance criteria. The third discretion relating to the setback of the agricultural land, the primary area is really to the north of this site. That land is zoned agriculture. It does include active grazing land, which is unlikely to be used either for grazing purposes or in association with dairying activity, which is obviously very common within this location. The building itself will be set back around about 120 metres from the agricultural land, and there'll be some buffering provided as well between Doctors Creek watercourse that lies between the proposed dwellings and also the agricultural land, as well as the retention of native vegetation on the site that's not required to be removed for bushfire purposes. Another factor as to why the proposed dwellings are unlikely to result in significant land use conflict is due to the presence of existing residential dwellings within a cluster in this location, which effectively means that there's already some form of conflict caused, and on that basis the additional dwelling is not considered to be a significant increase in that conflict. During the public representation period, or public notification period, 5 representations were received. These are detailed within the planning report between page 6 and page 12 of the agenda report. There are some representations in there that relate to the management of the Arthur Pond Conservation Area, and some matters relating to the need for the residential accommodation in the site on this location, and some little bits of information and concerns around the broader function and management of the actual conservation area from the state government perspective. These particular matters aren't relevant to the discretions that have been invoked by the application, which is what we need to be considerate of when we're considering the discretions. Some of the items or some of the concerns that were raised that do relate to the discretions included impacts on the watercourse, possible impacts on some of the native vegetation, as well as the impacts on the agricultural land as well. So the general position is that the proposed development has been found to satisfy the key performance criteria relating to natural values, vegetation and impacts on agricultural land. And by doing so, deals adequately with those concerns that have been raised. One thing to note with respect to the watercourse and Doctors Creek, there is a waterway protection area over this creek, which does encroach slightly into this site, but the proposed dwellings and all vegetation removal and all roads and wastewater management will be located outside of that waterway protection area. So under the terms of the scheme, there's going to be no impact upon that watercourse in that regard. So overall, and on balance, the proposed application has been assessed as satisfying planning scheme provisions, including the three particular performance criteria, and it's recommended for approval subject to the listed conditions within the planning report. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, George. Does anyone have any questions for George?
Yeah.
Councillor Flowers.
Does Parks and Wildlife pay rates on this land? Because if they've been in the position of building two houses there and not going to pay no rates to this council, they're no better than Hydro. And I sort of disagree with that. Not only that, they're not in the community, they're out in the middle of nowhere really, aren't they? They should be made to go into Redcar or Marrawar where there's already facilities there. The schools, the pub, there's everything else is there. And if we're not going to click no rates out of it, we're just getting ripped off again. And like I said, no better than Hydro. Hydro has been doing to us in the West Coast, and Parks and Wildlife are going to do the same.
Councillor Flowers.
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, Councillor Flowers, I think that's probably a separate issue in terms of rates. What you're actually deciding here is on a development application, which doesn't have anything to do with whether a council's ability to rate them or not. So, sitting as a planning authority, so you need to be able to make a decision based on planning regulations, which doesn't relate to rates. So, if you're talking about, I suppose, rates under the Local Government Act, then that might be a different discussion for a different day, but probably not to do with the DA.
Councillor.
Yep. Can I ask a question? It's on page 31 of the agenda. Is it 500 square metres for each of the buildings or in total?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. So 500 metres squared, that relates to the acceptable solution, which is to do with standard 23.4.1, which relates to the developed area. So what that's saying is that the acceptable solution is saying is that if you don't disturb any more than 500 square metres in total, so that would include both dwellings, then you effectively tick a box and you're okay. In this instance, the development area is around about 5,500 square metres for both dwellings and the road, and therefore doesn't meet the acceptable solution, which is why we need to assess the performance criteria. So certainly, yes, to answer your question, the 500 square metres is development area in total.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Another question? Go.
You mentioned the bushfire hazard. Can we sort of request more information as far as controlling bushfires and things like that around the area? If you look at page 37, 99.983% of the vegetation around is combustible, and therefore what's written in there as far as a fire hazard, one road either side of the buildings with an outlet either end, that seems to be all that's been put forward. Can we as a planning authority demand or request rather perhaps more information as far as bushfire hazard control and so on is concerned?
Do you want to go, Ellie? or-
Yes,
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 thanks,
please,
George.
George.
Yes, certainly, yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. So, where we're standing at the moment, there's no ability to request that information right at this stage. Within the context of the development application itself, the site and the land is identified as a bushfire-prone area. Bushfire-prone area code only applies to development that involves subdivision of land or a use that is either a hazardous use or a vulnerable use. In this instance, the proposed dwellings aren't a hazardous or vulnerable use and no subdivision developments proposed. So there wouldn't have been an ability to request any information relating to bushfire because the code doesn't apply. So that's probably the short answer is no, we wouldn't have been able to do so. That being said, what Parks and Wildlife have done, and which is to get a better understanding of the full impact of vegetation and removal and the development area itself, they did engage accredited bushfire practitioner to prepare a bushfire hazard management plan which accompanied the application. And we have included that within an endorsed, as an endorsed document within one of the conditions that have been recommended. So what that tells us is that bushfire hazard management has been considered, and the extent of which is shown on figure 5, which is on page 5 of it's on page 22 of the agenda. That is the extent of bushfire hazard management that is required under current regulation, and this would also need to be dealt with at the building application stage as well. So in short, no, we don't have the ability to request or demand or enforce bushfire at this stage. That being said, there has been consideration to bushfire hazard management. The extent of which is shown on figure 5 on page 22 of the agenda, and in addition to that, all of the requirements within that bushfire hazard management plan, including clearance areas, road widths, firefighting tanks, water supply, will all need to be installed, implemented before those buildings can be used, which is a requirement of the Building Act. I hope that may assist in answering the question.
Thank you. Thanks, George. Any further questions? So the recommendation is for us to go ahead and grant this permit, this DA. So I'll just ask around the table, all those in favour?
I need to move a second.
Oh, a mover, sorry, and a mover. Thank you. So, and a seconder, thank you. Councillor Dabner. So I'll ask around the table, all those in favour, say aye.
You've got to speak on it.
Oh, do you want to speak to it? Sorry. I'm in a position I've never
Yeah,
been in before.
and I
give
am
it
trying
to
to help.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'll ask the move whether they're in or not.
Yes, whether they need to speak to it. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor, I think it's a very comprehensive report. I think with the zone where they were wanting to put these buildings are surrounded by a lot of other buildings in the same area which aren't very far apart. I've actually been to the area and had a look myself yesterday, and I can't really see any great problems with it, so I'm quite happy that to support their application.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Councillor Dabner, did you want to speak to it?
No, thank you,
No.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor O'Doherty.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've read through this and I've listened to everybody the other night. We listened to all the questions. I'm not going to support it because I have some concerns. Fire one is in there, but it still worries me a bit that it's because we've made other people do things up front with other buildings in the past, right? But the one that really concerns me is the wastewater coming from these two homes, that it'll get into Doctors Creek. And we sat here last council meeting and approved the environmental stewardship program, and this, in my view, doesn't meet those requirements. Somebody will argue that you shouldn't be talking about that with this planning scheme because this was on the table before. That's fine, but I've still got the concerns because it's pure sand where the wastewater's going into, and it lays to Doctors Creek. And if it gets into Doctors Creek, what are we going to do then? We need to see a comprehensive report on that before I can approve it.
Roldaker. Anyone else?
Any other speakers? Any other speakers?
Sorry?
Any other speakers?
Oh, any other speakers? Yeah, I did say it.
Yes, I'm not going to support it either on that. As far as the wastewater is concerned, I wonder why they haven't recommended the Enviro system that's requested on the coastal area at Rocky Cape and those areas there, and that's probably within the coastal strip, the same as what this is. And so if it's a condition that sort of system be put in at Rocky Cape, why isn't it in their own applications on their own area?
Did you want to answer that, Alison or George? No. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to this?
Are we allowed to ask a question?
No, you can't ask a question now.
You can just speak to it.
Speak to it. Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude.
No.
but
Yeah, no, that's fine.
while the motion's on, you cannot
Yep.
ask questions.
Okay, so if there's no one else that would like to speak to this, I ask for those in favour of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against?
Aye.
I'm for this motion, so I think that's 4-3, is that right? So the motion is passed, George. And it's approved.
Okay. Right, councillors, we're now back in normal council meeting. 7.3, councillors' question without notice. Councillor Holdaker?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got a couple of questions tonight. The first one dealing with the dump point at the Stanley Wharf. On the 21st of January, Council wrote a letter to the proponents requesting certain things. On the 22nd of January, that letter went back with all that was required in the letter on the 21st. Doing my sums, that's about 48 days since there's been any correspondence with the people. I want somebody to correct me if I'm wrong, but it does have, if it's a planning thing, it would have to be dealt with in 42 days, otherwise it's deemed as being approved. Is that the case?
Outside of mine. Ali, please.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Not all the information requested in the letter has been received. So we requested information particularly about where the waste goes once it leaves the Stanley Wharf, and a decision hasn't been made by the proponent yet, or hasn't been informed to us that it's either going to go to the Smithton treatment plant or a farm. They haven't decided that yet, and they haven't advised.
If I may, Mr Mayor, and I don't wish to get in an argument with you, ma'am, but my information is that information was provided and they've had no correspondence from council in that regard, because it works out it's about 4,000 litres if there's 2 boats come a week. Most times it's only one. And where they proposed to go was on one of Dutch Mills' properties, and through their effluent system, and that was provided, as my understanding of the correspondence that I received through the week, and I had a phone call today about the same matter. So,
Yep. Yes, I will take that on notice. Ali, can you'll check that out and come back. So we'll take that on notice and check it out.
thank you. The other question, and I couldn't ask this question because of a planning thing that was before, but it was reported to me that the money to build these houses is coming out of that money that was provided by government, and this is a Parks decision, provided by government to update the tracks. Yet they want to build, they're going to use some money to build those 2 houses. Do you know whether that's correct or not?
I don't. I'll take that on notice and find out for you. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'll have to find out for you. Councillor Flowers?
These 2 houses being built down there on Parks and Wildlife land, will we be collecting rates from them? Or are the,
I'll take that on notice too, Mr.
Take
Mayor.
that on
Yep,
notice, thanks, Councillor.
We'll check.
now, back on the 12th, I think it wasn't last month, there was hang on, I'll rephrase that. As a council, we collect a fire levy, and that goes to Tas Fire Service. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now,
Mr. Mayor.
we can't collect the levy unless we're supplying the service. Is that correct?
Unless we are supplying the service.
No. Well, if we collect the levy,
Yep.
they've got to supply the service because we collect it on behalf of them.
Yes, I gather that's what their legislation
Right.
says.
Now, around the 12th, because I was up in the Big Island, there was a Tas alert put out for Corinna and surrounding areas. And it stated on there that Tas Fire Service, Parks and Wildlife, and Sustainable Timbers would not be able to attend. So if they're collecting the money, shouldn't they be supplying a service? Well, we're collecting the money.
Yeah, so
Just-
through you, Mr. Mayor, we collect the money as a direction under the Fire Services Act.
Yep.
So I can take that and I suppose
Ask
getting
the
asked the question
of the department.
of the department about
Yeah. Just
resourcing to do with
what
that.
cheeses me,
Yep.
that there was a building got burnt, and they've paid the levy.
Yep.
Meanwhile, they're up there fighting in the World Heritage Area.
Yep.
Well, the World Heritage Area is like Parks and Wildlife down there. They don't pay a levy.
I suppose through you, Mr. Mayor, too, if I could get some more details afterwards about the property and all that type of stuff as well,
Yep.
too, I can check and see whether they paid
It's
the
not-
fire levy first.
It's not on ours. It's not in our municipality. It's in West Coast municipality.
Oh,
But I'm
okay.
still bringing it up because they stated that that they weren't going to attend the fire. Now they've got to, well, they've been paid to attend the fire. We've collected money for them to attend fires.
Councillor, hear what you're saying. We need to find out what the situations are and what the regulations are and what the rules are around this stuff. That was during a fire emergency, so there may well be different things around that.
Yeah, they was too busy fighting.
Yeah, well, that's maybe or maybe not, but
Yeah.
we need to take that all on notice, give the information to Rachel, and we'll find out the information.
No worries. Now, also, Stanley Caravan Park, Freedom of Information. Can we get a copy of what questions was asked in the last Freedom of Information thing from?
Was that from Mr Davis?
Yep.
I'm not sure, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure what rules and regulations are around freedom of information in terms of the requester and what goes back. But
Through you, Mr Mayor, in relation to that issue, I'm aware that that's now being dealt with by the Ombudsman,
Yep.
and it's under review by the Ombudsman in relation to that. So just clarify, what are you requesting, Councillor?
Well, I want to know, look, I've been talking to them and I don't think this council's treated them very well. Well, that caravan park stuff's been stuff up right from the word go. I want to know the questions and I want to know how many answers that was answered, but according to them, they asked quite a few questions and they got very little answers. Then they requested a review and they got no more answers. Yeah, and I'm just thinking of council just wipe their hands off it, or what's going to happen?
Happy to take the matter on notice. I've had a request to meet with the person that's asked information, so I will follow that up. But through you, Mr Mayor, I guess that we go back to the point that this whole thing is being now reviewed by the Ombudsman. It's in the Ombudsman's hands, so they've asked council for information and we're in the process of providing that information to the Ombudsman's office.
Yeah.
So it's being reviewed by the independent party at the moment.
Just disappointing for me to be sitting around the table here and they can't even get simple questions asked through freedom of information. Like, freedom of information is there for a reason. We should be answering them questions. We shouldn't be just sending them a blank bit of paper.
I'm happy to, through you, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to talk to Councillor Flowers after the meeting, make sure the person that I'm about to meet with is the same person he's talking to, that we've got the same voters, and
I suspect
we'll go
it
from there.
It'd be the same person.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Hine?
Recently, the Cradle Coast Authority have put a wish list out for the federal government for funds, etc., and referenced 395,000 for roadkill Tassie Devil mitigation. Did we have any input into sort of that request? And I have asked through the chair to an update of where we're at with that committee. If that is there some way of being able to sort of try and flush out what their aiming to do with that 395,000, because we've had some thoughts of trying to do some bit of experimenting fencing and things like that, and that might well be fit into that category.
I suppose 2 points, Councillor Hine. A, they've got to get the money, and B, no, that was done through the NRM part of that, and I'm sure the opportunity will come to ask that question. I can ask the question for you.
Thank you.
In due course. Sorry, Jim?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. I'm under the understanding that request, that funding amount, was based upon actions that were generated through the roadkill mitigation group, which council officers are part of. In terms of bringing back information about those actions, there hasn't been a working group meeting for some time, but when there is one, we'll report back with minutes from that meeting.
Thanks, James. Councillor Flowers?
Last meeting, which I didn't attend, there was a motion that was passed for an environmental policy.
Correct.
I'm just wondering now that there's council sprays approximately 1,400 kilometres of roadside, or 1,400 kilometres of drainage in this municipality. Is that going to stop now?
I wouldn't imagine.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there's no plans to stop spraying at this stage, but yeah, happy to review service levels going forward as we evolve the process.
Does it meet your regulations under your so-called environmental policy? Because if it does, the environmental policy is a joke.
Yeah.
It's just running it into a waterway. 1,400 kilometres of it. You're probably doing more spraying damage than any other farmer in this municipality.
Thanks, Councillor Flowers. The question's been answered. We're going to do a service level thing, and that'll come through on that. So.
Well, the other question was, does it meet your rules and regulations of your environmental policy?
Well, that's, yeah.
Yeah. Through you, Mr Mayor, the environmental stewardship plan didn't deal with regulations on spraying, but it's a broader document, but we can review our spraying service levels.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you, councillors. We'll move on. No notice of motions. Right. We've got Connected Communities, Director of Community Engagement. Oh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report is to note the progress report against the UNESCO membership of the Global Network of Learning Cities. This was an initiative of the Circular Head Education and Training Consultative Committee, and it recognises the activities, programs and services that are available to this community, and recognises that lifelong learning is important to this community. And as changes are happening faster and faster, membership of UNESCO allows us to leverage global resources, trends and share knowledge, and an opportunity to brand ourselves with a city that respects lifelong learning. So I put the summary report for your endorsement.
Any questions before Councillor Coogan?
Do we have a city we're connected to? Or town?
It doesn't actually connect with another town. There are 4 in Australia and about 300 around the world, but it isn't actually like a sister city relationship. Right. We're just part of that membership base and can talk through that network, but not a twinning as such.
So, questions before the mover?
Yeah, question, are we actually getting value for that? It was set up in 2019, and to answer the question of other cities, that there are 3 other cities in Australia, and their population average is 188,000.
So we're doing very well then, aren't we?
My word.
And so I do question it, whether we're getting...
All right, short answer, I believe so, but that's a chance for the council to debate when the motion's made.
Yeah, membership is free, so it really is an exercise of wanting to participate so we can measure ourselves and grow and learn. So value is hard to measure, I appreciate, but in terms of financial terms, membership is free.
So...
I would like
you move the
to
motion?
speak to that, yes.
I'll move the motion. Can we have a second the report? Thanks, Councillor Debner. Deputy Mayor.
Being that I'm the chair of the CHEDIC group, which is a subcommittee of council, we actually had a meeting yesterday where we were reviewing our operational plan and also looking at our vision and our objectives and so forth. A lot of what we talked about was how to connect in with the plan of UNESCO as well, because they list goals and objectives that are virtually on a par with what we're looking at CHEDIC. But it also gives us a way of wording our operational plan that connects with all the values under the UNESCO plan. So one of the questions that was asked at that meeting was how do we know that what we're doing is actually having any benefit in the community? And that was asked by someone from industry, because most of the people that attend the meetings, even though it's open to industry, business and beyond, and also education, most of those that come to the meeting are from educational backgrounds. So this person wanted to know how we can measure what we're doing, and what are we doing, was his question. And then once we looked at our goals and objectives and put it together with the UNESCO report, we realised that we have made so many connections through CHEDIC in our community, between industry and us, between council and industry, between TAFE, university and our schools and council. And I think that can only be a positive thing moving into the future for putting out there into our community that lifelong learning is such an important thing. And as Alan said, to use it as a branding mechanism when we are only one of 4 in the entire country, I think it's a very positive step, and we should really look at holding on to this plan and working together with CHEDIC and UNESCO. That's all.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Dabney, you wish to speak?
I do, yep. I'm supporting this one. I think it's, given the cost of being a part of it, is nothing, and given that we are one of very few sites that are involved in this, I think it does create that overall brand that we are lifelong learners. I'm a passionate lifelong learner, I fully believe in it, and you've only got to look at some of the work and the programs that have gone on. You've got to look at what Kate Gray does with 2610 and so on, and we're not talking about impacting thousands of people here, but it only takes one individual to come out of that program with a better set of skills in the many ways that they teach them, who might then go on to start a business and then employ and go on and do good things in this community. So I think as long as we are maintaining the brand that we are lifelong learners, we are more likely to attract science gigs and other programs that may come our way and attract funding for those, and there's no negatives to be found in that. I think it's a wonderful initiative.
Thanks, Councillor Dabney. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Hine?
Yes, through you back to Deputy Mayor, at yesterday's meeting, and was there a copy of Tony McGilvray, whatever his name is, out of the study centre? He did a presentation in February to this particular body, and I wonder if there's a copy of the report.
I'm sure there most likely is, but I can take that on notice and find out from Councillor.
Thank you.
I'll follow that up.
You follow that up?
Okay, any other speakers for or against? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. 9.2, community grants. Alan?
Yeah, councillors, this is a summary of round 2 of the community grants based on the workshop that we did.
Obviously, being a member of the
Membership, yep. Thanks, councillor Hine.
And the report contains the recommendation of the 4 bodies to fund from this round. So I put that forward for your consideration, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. We've workshopped this pretty well, but is there any questions? Thanks, councillor Oldacre. Second, Deputy Mayor. No debate? Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Sally.
Groove's on the go.
The goo's going. Yep.
No.
Probably want to go to the loo.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't that where the...
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, I've said worse.
Is there a timeout? Do you have a timeout button?
That's why I thought he had more time than he. He's been made aware.
We'll wait for councillor Hine before we move on. My comment as soon as it was is probably accurate.
Yeah.
You'll have to wait, you know.
We don't, but still. You'll have more questions if we don't. Thank you for your patience, councillors.
I thought you must have sat Mark down there to sort of try and keep you in order.
It hasn't worked.
Take his notebook if you like, it'll make the rest of the meeting run smooth.
This is going out there.
You could write something in it. I love you, Mesco.
In a big heart.
This is being filmed.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, it's so good.
I think we all better be a bit careful because that recording's still going.
Yes.
Good-hearted fun.
I've tried to be patient for him.
Yeah.
We'll move on. 9.3, Rachel.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, before you we have a report to consider an amendment to the 2024-25 annual plan and budget estimates. We've been through a process in the last couple of months reviewing operational budgets with staff. So we've had multiple meetings between directors and managers and myself and Vanessa at the time. We've identified, which I haven't actually included in here because the list was a mile long, so I've included the 3 main items that contributed to the change, which was an increase in the revenue from the Port Ladder site because the Waratah Wynyard contract went longer than thought. So we ended up increasing our revenue there, thinking that it was going to finish in August, September, and that pushed out a bit further. So we've got some more revenue there. Also, a reduction in the amount budgeted for the swirl contract. So we'd obviously put a budgeted figure in there and then went through a review of the contract arrangement, so gone to a fixed price contract. So we've got some savings there. And the other one was the $250,000 for the recognition of the grant income for the CBD project. So between all of that, The other thing was since we adopted the budget in June last year, in August we actually did a carry forward report for the first time as well too. So I've factored those changes into this as well. So what it ended up doing was the original budget, we had a deficit of 2.485 million, and it's actually reduced that deficit to 1.75. So that was the $735,000 that has been shown as a deficit through the amended budget. So there's a new profit and loss statement, balance sheet and cash flow statement attached, and if Council's happy with that tonight, we'll run with that with our next set of financial statements, which will come up in April. So I'll present that for Council's consideration, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Rachel. Any questions on that to Rachel at all? Councillor Hines?
Yes. On page 185, there's 163,000 loss for, I guess it's Davey Street. Were we actually notified, was that sort of informed to us and told us at the time when that was put forward to us, or as far as potential loss there, or is that standard, the way it's done? Or?
Through Mr Mayor, I'll take that on notice to actually go and check which assets that was actually related to. From memory, you're right, Councillor Hine, that it was to do with that project, but I just need to confirm. So I'll come back to you on that one.
No other questions? If not, could I have a mover and a seconder?
So moved.
Thanks, Councillor Oleg, a seconder, Councillor Collins. No further debate? Put the motion, those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Rachel again, finances.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, before you we have the financial report for the period ended 28th of February 2025. We actually received one application for the first homeowners grant for the month, acknowledging 2 in total for the financial year, which is very much down on previous years. So we're a little bit under budget on that one. In terms of page 191, we have the comprehensive income statement. We're currently sitting at a $435,000 surplus compared to our budgeted deficit at this current point in time of 2.485 million, which that's obviously changed to 1.7 next month. But we have received our last lot of rates at the end of February for this financial year. So the largest amount of income still yet to come through is the financial assistance grants, which generally come in right at the end of June. So we've really got 4 months' worth of expenditure to come out of that figure to take us to that end loss there. In terms of the statement of financial position, we've currently got community equity of $278.9 million. In terms of cash flow, we've got a current bank balance of 20.4 million, cash and investments. In terms of rates outstanding, we do have the proportion uncollected at 14.29% compared to 9.09%. I will say there that we have actually had an upgrade in our rating system. So I think that may be a little bit out of proportion depending on the timing of the payments that have actually come through. So we'll see what the end of March actually looks like to see whether that gap has been narrowed in that at all. In terms of sundry debtors, it's down on last year, probably about the same as last year if you take that $500,000 out for that grant that's sat in there that we billed the state for the whole financial year, so it's roughly about the same. In terms of the bank rec, we've just got the cash and online saver there and a couple of term deposits, and I hope you note, Councillor Pilkington, that amount at 1.35% sitting there last month's actually been invested, so that's good.
That is good.
So it just ends up being a timing difference. And then we've got the service area reports and the cash graph. So I'll present that, Mr Mayor, and take any questions.
Thanks, Rachel. Questions? Yes, Councillor Hine, I did look at you.
On page 191, you've noted in a note you've still got 3 positions to fill. What are those 3 positions?
Through you, Mr Mayor, at this point in time it would have been the end of February, so we would have had a town planner, an engineer and a tourism officer. Yep. So we've been through a fairly extensive recruitment process in the last 12 months because we've had a lot of positions that we haven't been able to fill. That's probably why our wages are down a little bit. But we're actually getting to the point where we've got only 2 roles left to go, which is a tourism coordinator after Kim Bailey has resigned and left the organisation, and we've also got an engineering officer as well, which has been budgeted for this whole 12 months. But we haven't been able to recruit one as yet. So they're the last 2 that we've got to recruit.
So we've now got a planning officer on board?
Yep, she starts Monday. Yep. So that's been since Dang has left. It's taken that long to actually recruit for that role. Yep.
Councillor Flowers?
From last year to this year, employing costs went up $1 million. Is that because we haven't had the people? From 2024 it was 6.3, 2025 it's going to be 7.3.
Can I, through you, Mr Mayor, can I just please clarify which page you're looking at, Councillor Flowers?
93, is it?
In the cash flow. Oh, here in terms of there.
It's on top of the list.
Yeah, I'll take that on notice, Mr Mayor, if that's okay.
Thank
So
you.
we're looking at the budget 2005 compared to the actuals for 2004. So the 7.3 million compared to the 6.3.
Yeah, it just seems a lot of money, $1 million in 1 year, it seems to me.
Yep. I'll take that on
Take
notice.
that on notice, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Hine?
Page 194, the top figure, arrears brought forward. 2024, February it was 2008, and this year it's 2006, 2002, is it? Is that the same debt sort of being brought forward, or is it?
Through you, Mr Mayor, in terms of the different properties that makes up, is that what you're saying, Councillor Hine?
Yes, as far as...
Unless I went back and had a look at that, I probably couldn't tell you roughly what they were, but I dare say there's probably long-term ones in there that probably would be a lot the same. But unless you want me to take it on notice and go and actually have a look.
Fine, yes,
yeah. But there is a certain, probably amount of the population in there that probably would be a lot the same. So, yeah, yep. And you'll get those ones that are in the Tasmania Election Service and things like that as well too. So, yeah. So I must admit though, sorry, I'll just butt in there again. That arrears brought forward, we're actually in credit overall. So there's actually more people that we owe money to than what owe us money at this point in time. So this is actually the balance that people actually owe us. So I think we've got about $400,000 in credit at the moment as well too. So, yeah. So on the flip side, people owe that at the end of the year, but then we've got all these others that are in credit and are in advance as well.
Thank you.
So, no worries.
Councillor Pilkington, did you look like you had a question?
On page 193, investment in plant and equipment has gone from 7,389,000, 7 million to 13 million.
Yep, through you, Mr Mayor. So this was all done in the budget process this current financial year with councillors, including the wages. But that is $4.4 million of that was in carry forwards for the capping of the cell support ladder.
Right.
So there's some large items in there like that has increased that. But if you want me to take on notice and actually provide you with what the differences are, I can do that as well.
Well, that explains a lot of it.
Yeah, it's a fair chunk of it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
No further questions? If I could have a move and a second that the financial report be noted. Thanks, Councillor Collins. Seconded, Councillor Pilkington. No further debate. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 9.5, General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to present the report in relation to the target amendments to the Local Government Act. And the report is to propose that the amendments listed in the report be endorsed and provided to the Local Government Office. I understand that the matter's been workshopped with councillors on the 13th of February, and you've been through it. And obviously we've got a deadline for a response, which is tomorrow. So after the decision tonight, we'll forward this off to the local government office. I think it'd be best to take councillors to page 205, which lists the reform priorities, and generally through those reform priorities, council is generally supportive with a few restrictions. I guess one that is the clarification around the work health and safety obligations, and you put a bit of a qualification on that one. And the one that the council has indicated they're not supporting is the making of rates notices clearer and the requirement to provide a lot more data in rate notices, and you're not supporting that. But generally across the other reform priorities you're supporting, and the recommendation there through you, Mayor, is that council support that list on page 205 to be provided to the office. I will add through you, Mr Mayor, before closing, is that this is giving consultation and feedback. There still needs to be a bill go through Parliament, and consultation through that process will give another opportunity for local government and or council potentially, if it needs to be, to target more pressure onto the government if the final bill is not to the local government's liking. Most likely at that stage through Legat, but certainly council could also put representations in at that stage as well.
Thanks. Questions? Any questions on that? Councillor Hine?
On the page 234.
234.
234.
That's the next report.
That's the next report. You're on the wrong report.
Very good.
You're on 9.6.
Oh, right, I'm too far ahead, am I?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
If there's no question, we can either move in a second the report.
Moved.
Thanks, Councillor Oldager. Second, Deputy Mayor. No debate. Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 9.6. General Manager again.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, it's a piece of electoral bill that's been put out by the local government office for consultation, and once again, it's looking for councillors to endorse it. I guess the discussion package is organised in 5 key outcomes: a more flexible, accessible format for elections, a better voting franchise for electors and changes their ability to run for office, better quality public information, strengthen donations disclosure and advertising requirements for councillors, candidates, and other changes to support the integrity of elections. Fairly extensive discussion papers attached to that. I don't intend to go through that in any depth. Happy to take questions. Looking forward to one on page 234. I won't try and predict what it might be. But I guess I will take councillors through to the back of the report, and out of all that, we are only proposing to make 5 recommended changes where we're supporting it. The one that we're not supporting is the remote attendance at council meetings in relation to confidentiality and those sort of issues, and that's listed there on that table, but happy to take questions, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Andrew. Questions? Councillor Hine, yes?
Bottom line.
He's got it up. Are you ready for it?
I won't know the answer, but I'll try.
You got the page, is it?
What page was it?
234.
I'm just wondering that they're sort of expanding and giving an opportunity for non-Tasmanian electoral people to be on the roll. I wonder whether we should try and encourage or stipulate that they, whoever they are, they should have a good command of English language as part of the conditions of being granted
Well,
approval to
I'll go to the General Manager. I know what my comment would be.
Through you, Mr Mayor, my understanding there is that they're proposing that non-citizens, the only criteria will be that they need to be here at least 12 months. I'm not sure that you could actually apply that type of condition and criteria, something like that. You have to be careful of the Discrimination Act and those sort of things. At the moment, I understand that a non-citizen can be on the GM's roll, and I don't think there is a 12-month requirement. I think I think that's why they're probably changing. I think this would probably come out of an issue. I understand some elections ago in Hobart, where there was some canvassing of non-citizens. Probably maybe around overseas students and that sort of stuff, which was upsetting the thing. So I think that's probably what it's there for. So it really is trying to make sure that if you are a non-citizen, you can't be on the electoral roll for state or federal elections. You can be on a local government one under the general manager's role. But they're trying to put a criteria on that. If you do that, you must be a resident for 12 months to go on there. That's my understanding of that reform proposal is.
Correct.
Yeah.
Councillor Flowers?
Is that on 12 months, or if they're a landowner as well? Or is it just got to be a resident for 12 months?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, if you actually had if you were a landowner, you would get a vote regardless.
No.
No,
You've
could I
got
just-
the general manager's right.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor.
Non-citizen.
If I
Oh,
take
being
you,
a non-citizen.
That's what the.
Oh, and a landowner
Yeah.
would have been a non-citizen. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
if I
We
take
have the Kiwis here, sorry.
through you, Mr Mayor, if I take you back to page 234, and I think this answers the question of Councillor Flowers. Reform 8, provide that a person seeking enrolment on the supplementary roll must complete a land occupier declaration. So there's no criteria there if you're a land occupier. I think it'd be automatic. And provide documentation of the leasehold or licence over that land, so demonstrate that you are, or evidence of their period of residence in Tasmania to the satisfaction of the Commission. And the period of residence, that's where the 12-month rule would come in. That's why I would read that reform proposal.
So if you're a landowner, you're right as well.
Yeah, I think so. The way I read
This
it.
is in it.
Okay, no further questions. Can I have a move and a second of that noted? Thanks, Councillor Debner. Seconded, Councillor Collins. No further debate? Put the motion, those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 9.7, General Manager again.
Best on ground.
Yeah, 9 point, thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. 9.7 is in relation to consultation on the local government regulations. It is proposing some changes here. This is very much around the fact the regulations have been in play.